Hey guys, it's Deni as always. You know, sometimes I get this urge to dive into medieval battles and the world in general, knights, peasants, sword fights, and bows and arrows. Well, and ideally that on this world to wander around and maybe even build some house, a rustic one, or a castle. I don't really care as long as it's medieval, although maybe it's just me playing Wartales too much lately. Anyway, if you want a real medieval experience, you're at the right place. Click on the like, click on subscribe if you haven't already, and let's go.
Do you miss adrenaline and dynamic gameplay? The perfect place to get it all? Good old Crossout. Tense battles, dozens of different vehicles, and hundreds of parts for their customization are waiting for you. You can make a powerful, bulletproof tank and destroy your enemies just by the look of it. Or make something smaller, but fast, and get in the back of unsuspecting enemies. In any case, Crossout is the best place to show everyone who is a real pro. Download the game at the link in the description.
Let's start with the most obvious game in this direction, which comes to everyone's mind. Kingdom Come Deliverance. One of the best creations where you just get into the Middle Ages in the face of the most common pre-flood man not able to stand up for themselves or even a sword to rub on the face of someone. But this is at first until you will not pump up and will not enter the service of the local rulers. For all the time of the game's existence, there were released quite a lot of DLC, which greatly expanded the world and its plot. Most likely you didn't even know, but in the game there is an add-on, Woman's Share, where you play for Teresa and look at all the events of the game from the side of an ordinary lady and a dog that accompanies her. And there are a lot of such expansions, so if you haven't visited the game for a long time, you should. How many updates were released in Mount and Blade, Bannerlord? Although I personally, even without them, I would love to go to this world again. Excellent medieval sandbox with incredibly massive battles. Moreover, it combines not only the opportunity to fight on the battlefield, but also to develop economically without getting up from the throne. By the way, you still need to win the throne. The only downside when you are already a big man, there is a certain moment of grind in which you will constantly capture the same castles, organizing the same battles for a couple thousand people, where you will constantly be attacked by the same sneaky assholes saying that you are a scoundrel, scum, and generally bad. There will be too much of that here. In general, in my opinion, the game is more fun when you are just starting to develop, not when you are already the ruler. By the way, there is no such thing with Crusader Kings 3. Here, on the contrary, I like the moment when you were able to capture new territories and develop already in the 10th generation. Moreover, the variability of this game is much higher than in the same Bannerlord, although this level of battles, of course, is not enough. They also added a dozen of different DLCs and add-ons, from conditional tournaments that you can organize to new nations that appear in the game and for which you can play. The Crusader's game itself is, in my personal opinion, reminiscent of Civilization. It's when you start playing, you play for 2-3 days and then you don't go back to the game because it's a long time and you don't have that much time. Nevertheless, those are days of sheer enjoyment. Suggest we move away from strategies and revitalize ourselves a bit, especially since there is the wonderful medieval Dynasty for that, also with co-op. Yes, if anyone suddenly does not know, in this game you can go for a walk together with your friends. You are here, the most common rural man who decided to make his village. To do this, he found a nice piece of land and started building. Over time, all your land will grow inhabitants, and your quest will turn from a village man into a local baron, who is watching the inhabitants, and the economic component and encroachment on the land will not allow. All this with great graphics and most importantly, with a lot of content, because the game is not the first day and it is updated a lot. So I recommend it. For Honor also exists not for the first day, but what is surprising is that it is one of the few Ubisoft projects which has taken root and is quietly blooming and smelling, and it smells, not stinks. Who suddenly doesn't know? It's medieval battles with fortress sieges, one-on-one duels, with point captures and so on. There are a lot of modes as well as a lot of characters which Ubisoft skillfully continue to complete. At first there were 3 main groups, Vikings, Knights, and Japanese. Then they added the Chinese and who is not here now. Visually it still looks good, but about the local infuriating combat system is legendary. I personally was not enough to play it for a long time, but in general the game is cool. Well, this is Wartales, where you walk around the world like in Mount and Blade, only you fight not huge armies but a small pack of people. Well, and not only people if we speak frankly. The essence of this lovely game is that you must gather a squad of mercenaries and do what you want. Fight everyone you meet, rob everyone, or even become pirates. Here rolled out a new DLC where you can board a ship even right at the beginning of the game and go to fight with enemies at sea. There are also villains and various guards and everything else. However, you can go there, or in the case when you are already pumped, or you can put the progression of the world not by levels and locations, but simply by the level of your equipment. And the stronger you are, the stronger the world will be. But I personally do not like it so much because the point of swinging is lost. You come here not only for exploration, but also for the feeling of superiority. All in all, it's a great thing. If you don't need turn-based games, and you want just action, there is Chivalry 2, a perfect game where you can take a sword in your hand, a shield in the other, put an iron helmet on your head, and run to die in some huge battle. Chivalry 2 is a perfect game about medieval battles, in which there is variability in characters, and battles are quite massive, and the graphics are good and the dynamics is just sweet. Also, here are probably the best sieges in principle. Well, or at least one of the best. Stable online, which means a lot of people. Catapults, there are different, destructibility even the smallest, there is wind catapults, feet. All in all, it's a real thrill. But if you feel like you can't keep up with everything that's happening on the screen, and your hand is so old that you can't lift a single sword, not even your own, then it's time to go into strategy. For example, in the Guild 3. The game is certainly not perfect, rather even controversial, but it is quite original. Your quest here is to be anyone in the medieval world. That is, we will create our own family dynasty, and our family can last for centuries. We start, by the way, in Europe, as you realized, in the area of 1400. Well, the genre of this game is a mishmash. There's kind of economic simulator, strategy, and even RPG too. The main quest is just to live. And here the quest is not just to live, but rather just to survive. Because this is a legendary adventure about rats infectious, a brother, and a girl. As cute as possible. If you are not familiar with this story and the game, I advise you to start with the first part, because this is a full-fledged sequel, where Our Lady and Fight Learned and Arsenal here expanded, and even a small brother is not so useless. Well, about the plot itself, I'll keep silent. The whole game deserves a separate Oscar. At the finale, you will cry from everything happening like a little girl. Just a work of art. And this is something less known. Knights of Honor 2, Sovereign, where your task is to conquer the whole medieval Europe. Basically, it's something similar to Total War, only the game is a bit different. There are 2 phases of the game here as well. The first one is where you control everything that happens on the global map, and the second one is the battles themselves. They are exactly the same as in Total War, with huge crowds of warriors fighting each other, but not as tactical as there, more casual. In general, you know, it's something between Crusaders and Total War. Besides Chivalry 2, there is also Mordhau. It's doing great right now too, especially considering that the game is constantly coming out different patches and battles here, by the way, huge. Plus, new modes have already appeared. In addition to the usual battles with other players, now there's a joint mode, Horde, where you side by side with friends will fight against hordes of enemies. Naturally, nowhere to do and pumping and customization of Persians. Huge arsenal of weapons and armor, all this time expanded, as well as maps on which you can can apply all this. In short, the developers are really good because they follow the game and bring in a lot of new content. And Conqueror's Blade. Yes, suddenly, MMORPG in front of you, so also free, in which you are waiting for a huge world, your character, and a sea of different troops, which you will pump, dress, recruit, and everything else. There are many classes of characters, which incidentally depends on quite a lot, but they are not omnipotent, as you realize one conditional archer, even pumped up, will not be able to do anything with some troop that was sent to him. Developers in general are also good, because here every month almost bring new updates and troops, well, and try to balance it all if possible. It turns out not always, but they at least try. Well, the medieval spirit here will not be difficult to feel. Well, we're done for today. I hope you found something cool for you, where you will go to play, and therefore clicked on the like and subscribe too. I'm with you as always, Deni, and have a nice day.